Hey, my name's Andrew, and in this video, I want to talk about the Canon 24mm f1.8. This is a lens that I've been using for a couple months on the Canon R10, and I've really been enjoying it. And so I wanted to make a quick video. I know there's already a lot of reviews on this great lens, but I wanted to get on here and share my thoughts and opinions and my experience with this lens. The 50mm is a very notorious, the nifty 50, everybody's heard of it or has one. And I got this lens early on, and great lens, but there's a couple cons that the 24mm just solves. So in this video, I want to kind of talk about that, and especially in comparison to the 50mm, which I think is kind of the all-time best budget lens. First of all, the biggest thing that I think the 50mm lacks is a good focal distance on the APS-C sensor cameras. It's kind of equivalent to like an 85mm, which is not a bad thing, but anywhere from 35 to 50mm on a full frame camera is a very comfortable and natural focal distance. So the Canon 24mm on a crop sensor camera is equivalent to a 35mm lens. So for me, the 24mm on something like the Canon R10 has been a very comfortable focal distance. I've done a street photography video. I'll link to that at the end of the video. You can see some sample photos in that video. But yeah, having a crop sensor camera like the Canon R10, this 24mm focal distance is extremely comfortable for all kinds of different areas, especially just walking around and just using it. Street photography, portraits, just daily life. The 24mm is a very comfortable focal distance, and I found that in many scenarios using the 50mm, I feel like I just have to back up a little bit further, where the 24mm just always feels like a comfortable focal distance. So for me, that is one of the biggest pros of this lens, one of the biggest reasons I'd recommend it to any budget users. It would be great on a full frame camera. In fact, I think at that focal distance, it would be good for vlogging. But overall, I feel like I'd recommend it to any APS-C sensor camera users because that focal distance is just very comfortable. All right, second of all, this lens has image stabilization, and on a budget camera like the Canon R10 that doesn't have image stabilization, just having that little bit of image stabilization on the lens is really nice to kind of take out that little bit of shakiness. So that's been really great for video. Now, up next, talking about the price, this lens is coming in, since it's been out for a while, I'm not exactly sure where it was new, I think around $600, but now it's dropped down to about $460 to $500. That's kind of generally where I've seen it on sale for. Of course, you can buy a refurbished or used one for probably less, but that price range is a little bit more. Again, in comparison to the 50mm, this lens you can get for about $150 to $200. So obviously the 24mm is going to be a good bit more expensive. Now up next, I think the size is just perfect on this lens. It's not too big and it's not too small. Now you'd think having a really small portable lens would be the best case scenario, but I think for video work, you want something that's a little bit bigger. It's something that you can use the control ring and for the focus ring. That's something that on this lens, it's felt very comfortable. It's not too small, but it's also not too big. It's felt like just kind of the perfect size lens paired with something like the R10. Now up next, the aperture. This is an f1.8 aperture, about as good as it gets here for Canon, and that allows you to get really good low light photography and videos, as well as getting that blurry separated background. So perfect for portraits or anywhere basically that you want to have that separated professional looking blurry background. Now, one other thing, this does have macro capabilities. I personally don't do a lot of macro photography, so that's not a big feature to me, but if you do want to get into macro photography, this is a lens that will open up that possibility for you. Now, the only con with this lens that I've kind of run into is anybody that's a budget user spending $400 to $500. That's not a super cheap lens. I don't think it's necessarily an expensive lens, but for some people that are looking for a cheaper lens in the $200 to $300 range, this is gonna be a little bit out of that range, but I do think that you get what you pay for. So to summarize all my thoughts and opinions on this lens, it has been a great lens paired with the Canon R10. I felt like it's super useful to have a lens that I can just snap on, and when I'm walking around, it's felt like a comfortable focal distance. I think that's probably the biggest pro to me, is just being able to walk around and not feel like I'm too close or too far away from the action. It's felt like a very comfortable focal distance, that having the good aperture, having the image stabilization to take the edge off my video work. I think all around this is a good little lens for run and gun photography and video. So if you're looking for a good budget hybrid prime lens, I would say definitely check out this Canon 24mm, especially if you own a APS-C sensor camera. So those are my thoughts and opinions. At the end of the day, I think the 50mm is still a great deal, but something like the 24mm kind of takes away all the cons that I had with that 50mm. So you're looking at a lens that I can honestly say doesn't really have too many cons. I'm not the type of person to zoom into photos and say, oh, this one's not quite in focus, this one, you know, has some chromatic aberrations or whatever. I just think real world experience with this lens has been really great. So if you're looking for a lens that kind of fits that all around box for video photography, just run and gun, you don't have to think about it, I think this is the lens you're looking for. So if you do want to check it out, there's a link in the description. But at the end of the day, what do you guys think? If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. If this video was helpful, drop a like. And if you want to watch other budget gear reviews, consider subscribing. And if you do, I'll catch you in the next video.